to not take opportunity because you're afraid, I think is the wrong thing, because the only person who's going to suffer is you.
This is the How to Quit Working show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the How to Quit Working show. I am so pumped up about today's show because we're going to be talking to Debbie Travis, and she is the host of Debbie Travis's Facelift, The Painted House, and numerous other shows, author of books about home decorating, how-to videos, you name it. She's done it all in this space. Not only is she a TV host, she is also one heck of a devoted entrepreneur at heart. It was a blast talking to Debbie. She is all about getting everything out of life, living life to the fullest. She's doing that, and she's going to talk about how she began to do that and many of the things that she learned along the way in this great interview. Look forward to hearing what everyone thinks about that, and the best way to let me know what you think about the show and talk to other people who also listen to the show and want to talk about these great ideas is to join the How to Quit Working Circle over on Facebook. If you just go to howtoquitworking.com/group, you will be sent right over to Facebook, and then you can jump right in the group. There's no cost, and you get to talk to other people just like yourself who want to become entrepreneurs and love listening to great advice from inspiring entrepreneurs like Debbie Travis. Now, without any further ado, let's welcome Debbie to the show. Debbie Travis, welcome to the How to Quit Working show.
Thank you.
So I'm so glad to have you here. You know, it's really neat for me because back in the early 2000s, I bought my first house and didn't have very much money, but I did have HGTV and watched your show and was really inspired to do some things to make that house look a little bit better, because it was a kind of a 70s nightmare with the shag carpeting and all that old stuff. And you really inspired me to make it look better. And I actually ended up making a decent amount of money when I sold that house.
Wow.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to thank you for that. And it's really cool.
I expect the commission in the post tomorrow.
What's that?
I expect the commission in the post tomorrow.
Absolutely. I will put it in the mail. But the real reason that I wanted to have you here is you have a really neat story. Now you have a great business that you do a lot of different things. You do a lot of different things, but I wanted our listeners to hear about how you got started in business, and I think it was born of necessity, and you just kind of did what you need to do. But I want to hear you tell the story.
Well, necessity is, a good thing. Also, I think turning a hobby into, a passion, into a career. So basically, I was living in London, and I was in the television business, very low down, about as low down as you could get. And I trained at the BBC, the television network, and I wanted to be a producer. And somehow I managed to wangle myself to go to Cannes, to the film festival, as you can do when you're in your mid-20s, And the first night there, super professional that I was, I met a guy who was a Canadian and married him 3 weeks later. Wow. How dumb was I type
You weren't
of thing.
messing around.
I wasn't messing around. He told me he was really rich and he was a big Hollywood producer. Of course, he was neither. These first dates. Never marry somebody after the first date. Really, it's the only advice I can give. But anyway, I'm still married to him nearly 30 years later. And, but what happened was, young and naive, I moved to Montreal. And when I got to Montreal, he'd kind of forgotten to tell me that they spoke French there. And of course I didn't. And, I couldn't get a job in television. So at the same time, there was a woman called Jocasta Innes who'd written a book called Paint Magic, which had taken Britain by storm. And it had kind of brought back all the old paint techniques that were used in kind of France and Italy. And and people, it kind of clicked with, especially women. It enabled them to kind of do all this painting stuff without really having much talent or being able to draw a picture. So we bought an old house in Montreal, and I started to paint it, meaning not painting with a roller, but painting the baseboards to look like marble, you know, the fireplace, ragging and dragging and all this kind of stuff. And this was I guess this was the 90s and early 90s. And there were no you have to kind of imagine what it was like then. There were no decorating shows. There were very few design magazines. I don't even know if there was an IKEA, you know. I mean, you know, if you bought a sofa, you went to a department store. That was kind of the way decorating was. And there were certainly no television shows. So I started painting, and within days, people that I'd met and, you know, women would come over and say, "Oh, can you come and do my house?" And I literally had a business going. And I painted for about 3 or 4 years, kind of wealthy people's homes. I did the windows of Bloomingdale's in New York. I did restaurants, anything, you know, people wanted Tuscan walls. I could paint it to look like Tuscan walls. And I basically made it up as I went along. You know, I would practice in my basement and then go off with my bucket. And then also at the same time, my husband's business went under, and we literally had 2 small children, an enormous mortgage and no money. So I said, well, I can, you know, grab a ladder and some buckets and paint. And it kind of tided us over, obviously, for a little bit, but it grew and grew. And then one day, so many people were asking me, well, how do you do it? They'd stand under my ladder and watch and stuff. And I thought, well, why don't I make a video? And this was the time of the kind of the Jane Fonda, exercise videos, you know, the how-to videos was huge.
And this is like way before YouTube.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Way before YouTube, way before cell phones, I think. And yeah, you probably don't even remember that. But, so I made a how-to video, and, through that video, I started to get invited on, I did some trade shows, which is always a great way to start any product, not just because you sell there, if you're lucky, but you also meet people in your industry and contacts. So I did the big gift show in Atlanta and did very well, got these huge orders, and they were selling videos in those days. These are VHSs in gift shops. So at that trade show, 2 things happened. One, I met, an editor at Random House in New York, and quite a few kind of TV people were kind of mulling around. Anyway, I started to get invited on what were the daytime shows. And if anybody remembers the kind of 90s, there was like this, you know, the woman and the man, obviously they didn't even like each other much, and he did the lawnmowers and she did the cooking and you know, this was even before Martha Stewart. Martha was just starting with her first book on food, you know, and so I met all these people, and I started to go as a guest on shows, and every time I went on, the numbers went up, and some of the shows were live, and you would have a studio audience. And I remember doing one, and Tom Hanks was the actor, was another guest, and they asked him to speed his piece up because Debbie was here and she didn't have to sponge walls, you know. Tom Hanks off, you know. And there was obviously something there. And I think what it was here was something that didn't cost very much. Young mums at home could grab a stencil and a sponge and do something fun. Anyway, I did this for about a year, and I sold over 1 million copies of this how-to video, which was not terribly well made. And I'm sure some of your listeners have got one tucked away somewhere. Anyway, one day, as will happen, all the cables were just starting, and somebody asked me, would you be interested in doing a television show about paint? And I thought, well, how on earth do you do a series, you know, on paint? But we did it with very little budget, the kind of budget we had for a whole show. We now spend on lunch on one of my shows. And it was a runaway success. And what was ironic was that the show went back to Cannes, to the festival, and sold all around the world. So of course now we were suddenly, and we did a deal with PBS, and I don't know if you remember the show, This Old House.
Yeah.
Well, was geared to the guys.
Yeah.
So the Painted House, which was my first show, they put the two together. So This Old House would come on, and then for the girls at home, the Painted House came on.
I see.
And that show ran for 14 seasons. And then I decided to do a show called Facelift, and Facelift was the first reality show around, and Painted House was the first decorating show in North America. And Facelift became a show around reality, and reality television was just starting. And I thought, well, what if somebody goes away on holiday and we go in and we rip their house apart without them knowing? And then we work with the husband, say, and the woman's gone to see her mother somewhere. And anyway, again, we did this show, and it was a big, big success.
And it was probably my favorite show, show ever. It was awesome.
We did that for 6 years, and we're still sorting the lawsuits out. But it was, I think today, with how organized cable television has got, and it's obviously much bigger business now and bigger money, no network would let you take those risks. I mean, we would literally go in with sledgehammers, without anything. I think today it would be disastrous. But it was great fun, and again, massively successful, all over, and is still playing all over. And then I did another show from the ground up, which was about young people going back into the trades, and another series called All for One, where whole towns did it. At the same time, going back to those trade shows, I met Random House, and they decided to do a book with me called The Painted House, and I won the Book of the Year award. I don't know how, but somehow I did. Specialty Book of the Year. And then we did an 8-book deal with them. And so we did 8 design books, which was great. So it kind of exploded. And from then in Canada, I did a product line at Canada's largest department store or chain store, big box store. So I have a big product line and stuff. So it all kind of exploded. And I think it just exploded out of, with no particular game plan, into taking a passion, because I really believed it. I could never sell a washing machine because I don't like it very much. But when you're selling something that you love, I really thought that everybody, wanted to, on a Saturday afternoon, send their kids out with their old man and get up a ladder and, stencil some vine around their living room. And I think obviously not everybody's going to believe in you, but there's always a following because you've got this passion and people come along with you for the ride. And it's been a great 20-year journey and successful.
That is amazing. I love that story. But the question I have for you, Debbie, is a lot of people have passions. They have things that they love and that they're just as passionate about as you were about that. What made you be able to do this as opposed to other people who haven't? Well,
believe me, I'm no brighter than anybody. I have no qualifications whatsoever, I say with great pride. I never went to university. I left school at 16. Was actually thrown out of school. Well, I come from the north of England, it's a working class area. And in those days, you just wanted to get away from all these siblings and get a job, and move to London, the big city. And that's what I did. And nobody said you should be in university. Of course, if that was my kids, it would be a completely different story. We were absolutely going to university. But, I think, yes, everybody needs a degree, but I think it's got a bit out of control now because, try finding a plumber, that's less than $150 an hour. But plenty of lawyers and doctors and stuff, so I think we're losing the trades and we're losing something that is actually incredibly important. We can probably live without lawyers, but we're not going to live without builders, plumbers and chefs and things like that. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that coming back, and again, though, I think I speak a lot to universities. And the first time I did it, I was very nervous, all these kind of bright young things. And they're all terrified. They're all scrambling because they're not learning much at school on how to get a job. They've got all those letters by their name, but a lot of them there's a whole generation of 20-year-olds who are finding it quite hard. And not everybody's geared for that world. And I think we have to not feel that we should be ashamed to be a bricklayer or a stonemason or a plumber or an electrician, because they're actually the ones who are making all the money today, and it's, if that's what you love, you need to somehow listen to yourself. But the other thing is that what I talk about often to young people is understanding opportunity. And some people you can slap them in the face, like a piece of dead fish, with opportunity, and they don't see it. Entrepreneurs tend to be great listeners on opportunity. They've got this, like you say, you may have the passion, but how do you take it to the next level? If you're passionate about something and you talk about it, I think of it as like a seed. And a seed, do you know what like a jawbreaker is? A gobs. Yeah. In England, my father used to make them in the north of England. He used to make the machines that probably broke more children's jaws than any other food product. But how a gobstopper, we call them gobstoppers, I think. And
we have them here in the U.S. as well.
You call them jawbreakers, right? And you suck this huge hard piece of candy until it goes back down to the seed. But when it's made, they basically take an aniseed and they throw it into this massive vat the size of a car, and then they pour in melted sugar, and that sugar goes in and it coats the seed, and then they pour in another color, and it spins around, and the seed gets bigger and bigger, like a snowball.
Yeah.
Now, that's like an idea. So you may have this idea, you mull it around maybe for a few weeks or months in your head, and then maybe you tell your best friend or your spouse or whoever, and that little idea gets a tiny bit stronger. And then you start sharing the idea with as many people as you can, and it starts to come to fruition. It starts to get, solid. And I think if you've got that passion, you've got to open up. You've got to say to people, what do you think about this? Or, okay, there'll always be naysayers. I remember a friend from North Carolina, not that I have anything against North Carolina, but actually said to me, nobody watch a television show about decorating. Now, there's whole channels, of course, of it. I killed her. But no, but you have to, because when you talk out loud, and women are quite good at this, when you talk out loud, things start to make sense. And then you need to practice and practice and practice. And, when I was painting, I did lots of free jobs. Family's usually the worst. Can you just paint my living room while you're over here on holiday type of thing? But practice obviously does make perfect. And it's also about your mistakes. And we all make mistakes. And those mistakes are really the grounding of any career, of any entrepreneur, because you learn from them constantly. Like, okay, next time, we lost money on that, we'll do it this way. And that's your building, that's your climbing the ladder. So I think it's a matter of taking that passion, getting out there with it, seeing who else is doing something similar. If you are selling something, if you can, go to a trade show, go as a guest. You don't have to pay the money to have a stand. Go, because you meet people. Go where your people are. So if you're making candles, go to somewhere where there are selling candles, or there's a trade show, or where you can get ideas and meet other people. Because it's okay. But if you've just got a passion that you're at home, making more and more cookies every day, it's not going to go anywhere. You need to go to a food show, see what is going on out there in the market. And also to understand that people are looking for the next thing. They're looking for new stuff. And I think today it's actually quite exciting because so many people have gone into social stuff, social media, so all the techie stuff. That's a whole generation. But there's also, we still need nice things. We still need, we like to garden, we like to cook. All those things are growing and growing because it's the counterbalance to the internet, stuff we're doing. Like sometimes you just want to get off the internet and bake a cake, or put in a plant or take the dog for a walk. You want to do something physical. So there are massive opportunities there. And there's nowhere better in the world than America for getting those opportunities out there. You know, one of the funniest things that happened, I was doing a speech and I said, you know, the most important thing you have when you're growing as a business or you're growing as an entrepreneur is your Rolodex. And of course, 3 or 4 hands shot up and it's like, yes. Excuse me, miss, but what is a Rolodex? So, you know, it's like, oh, God.
We have a lot of young listeners, so maybe you could just quickly follow up.
Well, a Rolodex was this round thing that anybody who's over 30 knows what it is, and it had cards in it. So on your iPhone or your BlackBerry, it's very hard to write notes of who you meet. Who you meet are the most important. That's your life. And I know people that helped me along the way 20 odd years ago, and they're still involved somewhere in my life or my career, or I can ring them up because you're all growing together. So I think it's incredibly important to get off social media and Facebook and all this stuff and actually go for a drink with somebody, because it's much stronger. You know, you meet somebody you go to, let's say, a speech. You know, you go and see a seminar of somebody speaking about entrepreneurship. You're going to meet people, write down their name or write on the back of their business card. Met them at this show. She makes so-and-so, so-and-so. Could be cool. You know, these are people that you can call up and never be shy to call them up. You know, they're wondering at home whether they should call you, you know, and build that Rolodex or whatever you want to call it, shoebox full of little notes. It's invaluable because it's your contacts. And instead of saying, oh, I'll follow you on Facebook or we'll tweet each other, maybe say, you know, why don't we meet and have a coffee? And you know, it's so important. And that's what trade shows do. You know, every business in the world, whether, like I said, it's going to Cannes, to the film festival, or it's going to Atlanta Gift Show, it's where human beings get together and they talk and they brainstorm and they see ideas and your mind starts whirling. And I hope we go back to that a little bit, because I think a lot of people are spending so much time, including my own children, get a job, you know, like on the internet, you know, trying to network on the internet, which is fine. It's an amazing tool. But I think we have to also be a bit, you know, hands-on as well, which means human contact.
Absolutely. Well, you made a great point I thought there's so much stuff that's like online now that we really crave that actual physical stuff, like baking a cake and those actual personal relationships, having a cup of coffee or a drink after at the end of the day.
And you know, it's a lot easier. You meet somebody on the internet that's maybe can help you in your business, but you're still a stranger. If you've been to an event and you've met somebody, yes, you can Google them, you can see what they're doing, and then you can email them and say, we met, you know, at the hardware show in Chicago. We chatted a little bit about this. Could we talk? You know, so they're all amazing tools. They all have their purpose. But when you get out there and you actually meet somebody, people remember your face, because the internet tends to be faceless. And that's where, you get much more of a grounding and much more of an opportunity. It opens more doors getting out there.
Yeah, Debbie, you talked a little bit about failure, and I think that's one of the things that folks really worry a lot about. Like, what if I go out and I try something that doesn't work?
Well, everybody fails. I mean, everybody fails, you know, constantly.
Even you?
Constantly, you know. Things don't always work out and life gets in the way. My funniest story ever was we were filming in Italy, actually, and my husband used to direct me in those days, and he'd gone on ahead. Not pretty being directed by your husband, not to do that, but anyway. He'd gone on ahead, and I was in a shop called Urban Outfitters with my 2 hideous teenage boys who were in a changing room beating each other up over the usual teenage boy stuff. And our bags were packed to leave the next morning. And while I was in there, I got a phone call from Oprah Winfrey and, her team, you know, and they said, we would love you to come on the show. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing and whatever. And they said, we'd like you here kind of tomorrow type of thing in 2 days.
Wow.
And I called my publisher in New York, and they said, that's fantastic. And I said, but the problem is we're going on holiday tomorrow and we're filming abroad. And, she said, tell them you don't have children and you're going. We'll all come with you. And then I call the network. I called HTTV. They said, tell them you don't have children, no holidays. We're all going. It's going to be fantastic. And then, of course, I called my miserable husband who said, not a chance. If she wants you, she'll want you next month. And I actually had to call Oprah Winfrey Show back and say, I'm really crying down the phone. I'm really sorry that I can't come, And she said, don't worry, we'll find somebody else. And I remember thinking, please don't find somebody else. But a month later, as I loathe my children, so wanted to be single, a month later, they did call again. And I went on several times and it was one of the highlights of my life. And so things get in the way, but you have to be like that, that bunny that keeps bouncing back up again. And things go wrong and you can only learn from it. And, you can cry and scream and then you just say, you know what? Next time, never put all your eggs in one basket. I think I'm a big believer of that. If you want to start a business, don't mortgage your whole house to do it. You always have to think, well, if it doesn't go wrong, am I going to be on the street? Sometimes little steps are better. Get a grasp of what you want to do. And, yes, there's passion, there's talent. And often the reason that businesses don't fail is that sometimes it takes two people. It takes the one with the talent and the one who can work out the business side of it. And in my experiences, there ain't a lot of people who can do both. That's why you can never find a builder because they're not very good at the business side. Often you find it's the wife at home doing all the bills and things. And that's just the way we're wired. Great creativity doesn't mean that you're good at maths, So sometimes you might need help, whether it's a partner in life, like I did it with my husband, or, you take on a partner. But I think to not take opportunity because you're afraid, I think is the wrong thing, because the only person who's going to suffer is you. The only person who will have regrets. And you know what? I think part of when you look back on your career, you remember the things that went tits up. I don't know if I can say tits up, but anyway.
I haven't heard anybody except my grandma ever say that saying.
Thanks a lot. Not that old.
Well, I didn't mean it that way.
But things that go completely wrong, you remember, and they're funny in the end. You look back and oh God, why did I ever date him? Or why did I ever do that? Or, they're part of your makeup, your life. We don't all go back and look back on the fantastic stories. In fact, the misery stories and the ones that go wrong are often the most funny and the best dinner party stories. So I think, everybody's got one life. And if you've got something that you believe in and you say, you know what, I'm going to give it a jolly good go and give yourself a timeline. Say, okay, I'm going to try for 2 years. I'm going to take a sabbatical, pack in my job, whatever it takes. I'm going to put X amount of money in, not 100% of what you've got in, and I'm going to try this. And talk to everybody. Sharing stories is the most important thing because people you'll find are extremely generous. And people love to talk about their own experiences. That's what I've found anyway. And I think we often have a little bit of a fear factor when we're an entrepreneur that we don't want to tell other people because somebody's going to steal our idea. Well, that happens occasionally, but I think what's even more important is that watching the flicker of somebody going, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Because that fills you with more confidence. The more you talk about it, the more you share it, the more confidence you get when people like the idea. Of course, if everybody goes, oh my God, not rubbish, then maybe after the 100th person said it, you might be on the wrong track. But I think it's good to try. Failure is something I wouldn't be too worried about. Just put it down to just another part of your life. We all failed exams. We all failed relationships. We all fail. It's all part and parcel of everything. So why not? There's nothing wrong with failing part of your business. And you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs out there, if you ever read their books, they'll always talk about their failures because they're kind of proud of them. I think sometimes when you've done something and it's worked, it's kind of fun to say, oh my God, but when I did this, that was a complete, mess.
Sure. Debbie, what does success mean to you?
Happiness. I think success, for me, I've never been very money orientated. I think if you stop worrying about, making lots of money, it will come to you in the end. But I think success is, being able to, at a certain stage in your life, just breathe and go, that's fantastic. Having your kids safe as much as you can, with all their limbs intact, and nobody's got a broken arm this week. And trying to get balance in your life. You can be super wealthy, super successful, if that's what it means, and be in a rotten relationship. Maybe you're always traveling. Maybe you're just always working. And that's a big thing today. And it's about, we know when we're off balance. We all know now, we know if our body doesn't feel right, if we're drinking too much, we're eating too much, we're not exercising, we're just on a treadmill constantly. We know we're off balance, and sometimes you need to take 5 minutes to kind of really say, because you can hear that little thing in your head telling you, and we just ignore it. We keep brushing that thing off our shoulders, saying, I have to go to work, go away. But something is often telling us, let's rethink. And sometimes I think what is so fantastic today is we have opportunity, and we have as much, a lot of, not everybody, of course, but we are living in a world where we have choice. Women, 50 years ago had very little choice. My mum was a housewife and, just cleaned up after everybody and died at 50. Never got to have a proper job because it just wasn't done, and because the opportunities weren't out there, and what would she do? And today we have these opportunities. We're a completely different breed of people. And I think it's a gift. It's an amazing gift. And to say, okay, what is it I want to do? And we also don't have the stigma anymore of changing jobs. Like my parents' generation, job for 40 years. And if suddenly your dad had packed up being a lawyer and became a busker, the whole town would be talking, it'd be like, families falling into ruin and but today I meet people every single day who are chasing that next chapter, saying, you know what? Enough. There's a great Italian word called basta. It means just enough, it's got so much strength to it. Basta,
yeah.
And it means, we're not happy. Do we need a 4-car garage? Do we need, all this stuff? And then, of course, when you get a little bit older and your kids start leaving home and you've got all those school fees are out of the way and stuff, maybe this is time to say, what do I want to do? I think the word retire today is a kind of no word for a lot of people, because I meet so many women who are in their mid-40s to mid-50s, and they're saying, I've been senior VP of a corporation for 20 years. It's enough now. I've heard every story. Every meeting is like deja vu. But I don't want to go and sit on a cruise for the rest of my life. I want to take what I've learned. And how do I do that? Can I go on the speaking circuit? Can I write a book? Can I be a blogger? These things didn't exist 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so people are trying to, you're not having to have that big salary every month. So you're trying to rethink, what you want to do with your life. And that's kind of what I'm doing in Italy, where people can come and rethink all this stuff and think of their next chapters.
That's amazing, Debbie. What's the last thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the last thought is don't be afraid. Fear is, you need a little bit of adrenaline, obviously, but if you can put your fear aside and just go for it, just try it, and be inspired, follow people, listen to what people that you are inspired by are doing, and try and emulate little bits of that. And we're all copiers, whether you're a designer or a baker or whatever. We copy recipes, we copy design, we copy lives. We take a little bit of the best of everybody. And if you can follow these people, which of course you can through the internet, take a little bit of everything and try and add it to your pot. If that makes any sense at all.
It makes wonderful, wonderful sense. Debbie, where can we go to get more information about you?
Well, you can Google me, I guess. Isn't that what people do today? We have DebbieTravis.com, and you can go to Tuscan Getaway with my project in Italy. Just the internet, good old internet. It's all on there.
Excellent. Well, we'll link all that up below. Debbie, I hope you realize what an inspiration you are to me and to so many people out there who are living mediocre lives and are ready to do more with them. And I appreciate your coming on the show and sharing all of this hard-earned advice and information so generously with our listeners.
Thank you. It was fun. It was nice. I like talking.
Great advice from Debbie Travis on turning your passion or your hobby into a business and really just going out there and going after what you want. Visit Debbie at debbietravis.com or at tuscangetaway.com. Lots of great stuff there. They're all linked up below the show at howtoquitworking.com as always. You know, I thought one of the really great points that Debbie made was thinking about how would you look at something, 10 or 20 years from now, right? Is there something out there that is maybe holding you back, maybe fear of failure or fear of something not working out that you're staring at right now in the face? But what if you could step back and think about how would you look at that thing 10 or 20 years from now? Is it one of those little things that you would look back on and say, oh, that was so silly? I know we all have those things in our past that at the time we thought they were such a huge, huge deal. Right, but when we look back on them now, they were just really kind of silly and little, and really aren't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So ask yourself: Are you looking at something right now that's right in front of your face that 10 or 20 years from now you're going to think was just such a small, silly little thing? Hell, maybe even 6 months from now, right? Because I think we've all had that experience too, where we look back on something just 6 months ago and you're like, wow, why did I think that was such a big deal? Because now, here I am 6 months later, it's not that big of a deal. Don't let something like that hold you back from pursuing the dream and the life that you want and the life that you deserve. And you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to do it by yourself. You can get help, and that is what we are here for at How to Quit Working. You can go to howtoquitworking.com/coaching and learn more about How to Quit Working coaching. Heather Osgood, our certified How to Quit Working coach, is here to help you quit your job and start a business. She's done it before, and she knows the pitfalls. She can help guide you down the right path, so you don't have to just guess about what should I be doing? Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? What if it works? What if it doesn't work? You can have somebody that will help you through the process and take you through what really is a proven process that we put together and is really, really amazing and is something that has been proven time and time again to help people quit their jobs and start a business. So go to howtoquitworking.com/coaching and check that out, and come back here next time and listen to the next episode of the How to Quit Working show, where we're going to talk to another amazing person who has quit their job and started a business. And until then,
thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.